Okay, ready?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the West Highland Neighborhood Association meeting. First up, we have our Neighborhood Resource Officer, Bob Anderson.
Get started.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate it. Couple things tonight. I did bring the current property crime maps. They are on the back table there by Trevor. It just has a couple stats on there, mainly property crimes. We talk about the same things we always talk about: car break-ins, burglaries, and stolen vehicles. One thing that we're really focusing on, since summer is pretty much here and the weather is beautiful, garage doors, overhead garage doors. Please, please, please keep your overhead garage doors closed if you're not in a sight line of that garage door, even when you're home. We've had a pretty good spike for the last several years when summer begins on garage door burglaries. People are looking for easy opportunities to get power tools, bicycles, and they actually get in the vehicles that are in the garages as well. And so we just don't want that happening. It's a very easy crime to prevent. And while I'm talking about garage doors, if you have a pedestrian door on your garage, the door jamb, please consider changing those screws in the door jamb. They typically come with 1/2-inch screws. We really encourage people to take those out, put 3-inch wood screws in there. It costs less than $1 to make that door pretty much kick-proof. So just something to think about. It's a really easy preventative to keep people out of your garage. I also bought some additional women's self-defense flyers. We talk about this periodically. District 1 has been blessed. We have a really good sergeant that teaches women's self-defense classes. We have 7 more of these scheduled before the end of the year because the response has just been amazing. And believe it or not, 6 of those are already full. So, wow, yeah. But we have 1 class that has an opening. The flyer is back there September 29th at 9:30 in the morning, which is a Saturday. It's a 5-hour class for the ladies that are 15 years of age and older. We'd really love to have more people come to that. So, and it's free. So please come and learn some good skills and have a fun day. I also want to talk about our Citizens Advisory Group, which I'm pretty sure mostly everybody here knows about. But it's the 3rd Monday of every month at the District 1 Police Station. Commander Payson talks about all current events in District 1. Whether you live in District 1, drive through District 1, we don't really care. You're welcome to come to the meeting. That's at 6 o'clock, 3rd Monday of every month, so please come to that. That's all my announcements, but does anybody have any questions for me? Silence. 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 Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. Okay, so next we have Amanda.
Oh, tonight it's going to be about
Okay. We have Councilman Espinosa.
I was telling our CRO that I had a story for him because I left my car unlocked sometime on Saturday. And so when I got to it on Sunday, somebody had ruffled through it. So apparently they're just looking for guns or something of real high value because they left things of value in there and managed to just go through the glove box. They left the trunk open and the side door open a little bit, and they made it look like it was intact when you looked at it, but in fact... What else should I be looking for? Because I'm like,
registration papers.
Oh.
A lot of people look for registration papers for vehicles.
What are they going to...
Those were the part of the compass.
What would they do with those?
Who knows? There's a lot of fraudulent documents out there, so it's probably something to do with that.
All right. I'll try to check this.
Was that a good reminder?
Yeah. It's not reported, so your statistics are going to be... All right. All right, I can do that. So, yeah, just a couple of updates. Both this month, the 200-foot notification ordinance that I put forward that requires all rezonings to notify all property owners within 200 feet, both prior to planning board and prior to, oh, no, at the time of application. So as soon as that application is accepted, you will be informed that there's an application pending. And then once it gets through that gauntlet and gets to planning board, you will be once again notified. And that's to at least give you a sort of ample heads up that a change is potentially coming, and to better equip yourselves to address it if you have concerns. It's not such a problem here in Whna, but you know, when I came into office, not every statistical neighborhood had an RNO, and the city really relies on RNOs to get that communication out. So up until this ordinance change, either your RNO notified you, you had signed up for an email to get these notifications, or you saw the posting, you happened to drive by the posting at the time, and best of luck if you were getting one of those three things in a neighborhood without an RNO, or one that got the notifications and really got them to you in a timely manner. So this eliminates that. The other big thing, and I appreciate your guys' support already, the slot home text amendment comes through next week. Is that first reading or final? It's first. Oh, the public hearing is on Monday. So encourage you all to come down if you want to, but I believe we're going to have a substantial majority, if not a unanimous vote, in support of that sort of long time coming change. The third item, and it's outside your boundaries, or is it in your boundaries, and I should double check that, is there is a development proposal now in place for the St. Anthony's property on the south side of 29th, the old dentist office. I did for what St. Don, what did I say? Oh, sorry. I apologize. I was talking about Sloan's Lake and St. Anthony's right before I came over here, because they're now in another contentious rezoning matter themselves. But yeah, so St. Dom's property, and that's an interesting thing because they were going to build a priory. That was a rezoning application that we dealt with my first 6 months in office, and St. Dom's, I won't get into the makeup of that, but that owner of that property sold that to a local developer. Fortunately, I think they're West Whna residents actually, and most of the development team is. So I did communicate that to your PCD, so they're well aware that is underway, and there is a ZPIN process right now in place where you can articulate any concerns at that point, but it's a funky situation. But there is a covenant that restricts the number of floors and the height of that building that is in place, and we've confirmed that and shared that with the property owner, and they confirmed that, and so that much is going through. And then that was it. So any questions? Nothing? Oh, shoot. Ray, before I left here, I saw that your maps were on my printer, and I just remembered they were still in my car, so I'll go get them and come back in. That's actually why I remembered, because he was sitting there talking, and I was like, oh, shoot, I don't know if I did or not. So,
So what is the ZPIN, and how is it that we can articulate our concerns about them putting 18 units up on that DB place?
So that's the interesting thing. You're not going to stop the number of units per se, because now that's a new use by right. The ZPIN is a zoning permit informational notice, so really they're just they're required to give you 15 days notice that they're change of use. Yeah, I saw you out there taking that picture on the way in. But it is this the same thing we did with the XL Tower? So there is a process. We were the second time we ever made them go through this process on a XL Tower in Sunnyside. There is a process where you can essentially demand a public hearing before a weird group. It's not even a sort of formal body of the city, where they will determine they will then make a recommendation to the Board of Adjustment, because this is Board of Adjustment matter. So if there was colossal or a lot of opposition on what is being proposed, then you could certainly organize. That's what we did. We worked with the constituents in Sunnyside to oppose what would have otherwise been a rubber stamp planning board matter. So there are a lot of Z-pins that come through. And like I said, that was the second time in 7 years that they had to form that body. And we were successful twice. Or once on killing that tower, and we have twice then postponed, and we're still working with Excel on some sort of better solution. That is an avenue that is available to you, and there is, your PCD has the contact, or we can share it with you. Planning committee. What do you call it? Actually, there's Bill from Sunnyside who's been championing the Sunnyside thing that we're talking about. What is Whna? It's zoning committee. Sorry, so it's your zoning committee. Yeah. So perfectly not clear. Sorry. We learned it the first time, and we can learn it again. Because that is not a matter of council. It's not a quasi-judicial thing. So if you need our support in some sort of some sort of negotiated outcome, let us know. But thus far, and I saw something very preliminary. It seemed like they were trending largely in the right direction with some concerns about Hazel, which I'm hoping they've addressed since then. So, yeah. All voluntarily, by the way. So, nothing else.
Anyone else?
This is the last time, right? You guys are taking 3 months off. Does that change anything? Is this do you guys take the break?
Right.
All right.
So you'll have to go to socials, and he'll come drink with us.
Yeah. So I'll let me put this little morsel in. So one of the things I've learned in my time in office is the sweet spot to introduce ordinances without real scrutiny by council is September. So if you have any ideas between now and September, let me know, because we're in budget meetings and we cancel all of our committee meetings. So let me know if there's something we need to sneak through.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Ned Breslin from the Tennyson Center for Children. Thank you.
Thank you all. Nice to see you all. Ned Breslin from Tennyson Center for Children. We're kind of reintroducing ourselves a little bit to the community, so we're on 29th and Tennyson, between 29th and 30th. We basically take up a whole block. A lot of people don't know who we are or why there are all those kids there, and so just real quickly, we've been around since 1904 and started as an orphanage, and we now work with some of the most severely abused and neglected kids in the state. We're generally the last stop for kids after they've been bouncing through the child welfare system. So the kids who come to Tennyson, 92% have had at least 4 significant traumatic events, and they have been between 8 and 12 placements, and we have kids as young as 5. So they're little bitty kids. We have 24 beds for the 24 kids who stay on our campus full-time. They are all except 3 are literally orphaned, so parental rights have been terminated. And then we have a day treatment school, which is another about 80 kids who come in, who are usually with foster care or adoptive parents, or have gone back home if their families are safe. And we are continuing their treatment and healing and trying to keep them on track educationally. A couple trends have been hitting us quite hard over the last number of years. I'm fairly new, first of all. I've only been there a little under a year and a half. And greatest job I've ever had. Really difficult job, but greatest job I've ever had. So in Colorado, there's been an 82% increase in the number of kids who've been taken from their homes in the last 2 years. It's largely driven by the opioid epidemic. There has been closure of organizations like us, so we've gone in the state from 75 agencies like us to 16. So there's immense pressure being put on us, and so the kind of acuity, the trauma that we're seeing is extremely high. Kids do their one of two things, and they affect you, and we are working really hard to have better relations with you. And we really do appreciate all the support we get. But basically, kids who've been this traumatized do one of two things. They basically, when they're triggered, they fight, and that usually stays on campus, or they run. And that happens an enormous amount, and I know they're in your yards, and we work really hard to try to stop that. We've done a couple of things, and we're doing some more things to stop that. And so I'll talk about that a little bit. Number one is we now meet for about 8 months. We meet with police, fire and ambulance, so for all first responders, Councilman Espinoza, city lawyers, city reps, community representatives from the area, and we've been working on how can we mitigate the kind of drama that's spilling out into the community based on the fact that, again, the situation is a lot harder right now. Our campus, because of the law in the state, it's very hard to manage. You can't lock doors. They have to be able to get out and things like that. So we have been working quite hard. We used to have between 30 and 40 police contacts a month, and we got down to 8. So we're responding quicker. We're seeing triggers faster. We're moving a lot quicker to prevent flight. We have initiated Thursday night basketball with the police department. One of the biggest problems these kids have, and it's no fault of the police at all, but their experience with the police is usually coming to take them out of the house, and so they're afraid of the police, and we have been working really hard to gel relations between kids and the police, and that has been exceptional. District 1 has been remarkable, and if you see Commander Payson, please send his best. We are working with the city and with Councilman Espinoza to actually fence off our entire campus. As you probably know, if you've passed it, it's very open. So we're looking at permits and all that kind of stuff to fence it off. It will only slow them down. It's not going to prevent them from getting out. If they want to get out, they're going to get out. But it will cause the time for us to respond to increase, which is good. We worked very hard with the fire department and the police to get delayed egress on a number of doors so they cannot go out immediately. It usually takes about 15 seconds before the door will actually unlock. So we're working on that. And then more broadly, we've initiated a program to do a couple of things. So one is we've built out a series of programs to work in different counties around the state that tend to send kids to Denver. So Weld is big, El Paso's big, Larimer is big, Mesa is big. And since I've been there, we've gone from, for example, we had about 5 or 6 kids from Weld. We're down to 1 because what we're actually doing is investing up front and keeping kids in their counties. Counties want that. They want their kids to heal locally. And we want that to happen as well. It's extremely disruptive to a kid and very hard for them to heal if they are from the Eastern Plains and then come to Denver. It's like coming to a foreign country. So what we're doing is starting to build programs to stop the flow of kids coming to Denver so we can localize those solutions much better. The kids on campus now are overwhelmingly Denver kids. So when I got there, it was kind of 68% were Denver kids. It's now over 80. So these are our kids. These are our kids, and we're looking out for them as best we can. We've changed a couple things. Last thing real quickly, and then I'll open it up. I know historically, if a kid went onto people's property and caused damage, then technically we are not liable. These kids are, the guardian is the state, and what that meant is you would have to go and get insurance and you'd have to negotiate, and we don't think that's right. And so for the last year and a half, if there is any damage, we will pay for that. We will not ask you to go to your insurance. I don't think that's fair at all. And we are trying to work with the new shopping center that emerged kind of across from the bicycle shop and the bagel shop. There's like a craft brewery place and we got some really interesting data because the pressure of parking on the street is immense. If you live around us, you're like tripping all over our cars, and we're really sorry about that. The city actually did a really interesting kind of heat map, and they found that actually our parking lot, that parking lot there is ours, and people using those stores are now using those parking lots, which is forcing our staff onto the street. And so we now have one of our classes, which is for kids who have autism plus trauma. So that's really difficult. They go and check the parking lot every day. It's actually quite sweet. And they issue little tickets if you're parking there and you're not from Tennyson. So we're trying to do that. We really appreciate the support. We know we're not the easiest neighbor on the planet, but these are our kids. These are Denver kids, and we have started to demonstrate amazing results, and I'm super proud of our team. We are cutting the number of kids who are going to emergency rooms. We're cutting the number of kids who are going into the criminal justice system. That is saving the city a lot of money, and it does mean that you are all part of our solution, even if sometimes we're part of your problem. And I sincerely apologize for that, and we're working really hard to mitigate that and be the best neighbors we can be. Yeah? Is that a fair summary?
Yes, thank you.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am. And do you mind telling me who you are?
Yeah, I'm Joan Bolduc. I live on Yates, and I just wondered if you're going to bring back running in the bowls, because that was so much fun.
I don't know what that is. I have no idea what you're talking about. So, sure. I'll go find out. I'll go find out. Running of the
Bowls.
Okay. That sounds fun. Yes, ma'am?
My name is Veronica. I live on Tennyson, so I'm one of the yards that collect the children.
Yes. I'm sorry.
And no, I mean, I understand that they're going through the trauma, but are there any programs like music or art or anything like that that can be advertised to the community to help contribute that?
That's interesting.
As a
Yeah.
positive reinforcement from your community as well?
Yeah, that's a super clever idea.
Because we feel helpless.
I know.
When
I
they're
know.
on our lawn, we don't know what to do, or they're jumping in front of cars that are 26, or whatever. We can't touch them ourselves.
No, you can't. Actually, you actually can't touch them. It's true.
And so,
No, it's a real issue, actually.
but if we had a relationship with them,
Yeah.
I think that would help.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm going to give you some information on how to contact me in a minute, but I would love that. I think, one of the things that, the other thing that you also can't do is you actually can't take pictures of them, right? You can't take video, you can't take pictures, and I know that's been a bit of an issue. The reason is given the nature of the kids who are there, a lot of these kids, the parents don't know where they are. And so if you publish it in any way, then actually we have an enormous problem with parents coming, and some parents violently coming. So we have to be like super careful about that. I really like the idea. I mean, we're trying to figure out how to turn the place more into a community place as opposed to this kind of weird thing where kids are behind walls. And we think, what they need more than anything is positive adults. That's what they need because they don't have a lot of experience with that. And so I love your idea. I'm going to give you, again, I'll give you some contact info. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, my name is Jill. I live on 29th and Wolf. Can you tell us, like, the average stay and
Yeah.
then what happens, like, once the kid's better?
Yep. So one of the problems we're facing right now is the average stay is too long. Ideally, a place like Tennyson, all the places like Tennyson, Mount St. Vincent, all of that are built for kids to be there 3, 4, maybe 5 months. They're now staying close to a year. And that's because there is literally no foster options for them right now. And because of the acuity of the kids on our campus, you need a very particular type of foster parent. You need what they're calling kind of therapeutic foster parents, people who can deal with high acuity and high trauma. And we're working very closely with Denver DHS and with some others to build out a community of therapeutic foster families, because it's not good that they're there that long, to be perfectly honest. We would like them there 3, 4, 5 months, and then what we try to do is follow them home and keep them in their new home so that they don't come back. It's a great question.
Yeah,
Yep.
What I like to point out is Jill
Ah.
works with Nostalgic Homes,
Oh.
which is a big contributor.
Get all
Oh.
your Easter.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you so much. That's absolutely lovely. You guys are so generous and so thoughtful. Two things real quickly. If we have been putting together a monthly summary of what's going on and working with people. If you want to contact me, it's actually very easy. It's ned.breslin@tennyssoncenter.org. Some of you have my email address. You're welcome to write. The other is info@tennyssoncenter.org. It is not a random email address that goes into the hole. Someone does man that. And so if you want to hear what we're doing on a month-by-month basis, we will share that with you. Second thing is we just need to tell you that we suffered enormous hail damage. And so there's going to be some construction coming up, which will be a little bit disruptive. We might have to transition some kids to a different place for a little while because the damage was so significant. But we're going to be working very hard. Obviously, we can't have construction equipment lying around with these kids. And so I just want you to know it's going to be a little disruptive. Starting at the end of May, we're going to move as fast as we can because we don't want to cause disruption on the street. But we actually have to do it because our facilities need that work. We're also, I think I mentioned, Councilman Espinosa and others are trying to help us finalize a fence around the entire perimeter. So, any other questions? No? Well, listen, thank you so much. Thank you for being such great neighbors, and thank you. You know, you guys are holding these kids as well as us. And again, if there's any problem, you can come to me directly. And we really, really, really appreciate you being such wonderful neighbors, and we're trying to be better neighbors too. Thank you very much.
Okay, we do not have any committee updates, so we're going to move right to the open forum. So if you're here for open forum to come up and say a few words or make announcements, does anyone have any announcements? Mayfie, you want to start? Come on up. If you can.
Okay, yeah, a little trouble there. Corey and I, this isn't normally this kind of news, but since Corey and I are having our 25th anniversary this summer, this is kind of noteworthy news, and we're pregnant with our first, last and only.
Yeah, I saw that and I thought, wow.
It was a surprise.
Yes, I bet.
We had the same reaction.
Thank you, Mayfie. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, so if you're here for open forum, come on up and form a line and just come on up. Just line up and introduce yourself, make your announcements. Okay, first.
I'm going to be super brief. I'm just here to introduce Owen Perkins. I had the privilege of collecting a few signatures for the ballot initiative that he's going to talk about, which is coming on the ballot in November of this year. Definitely consider voting for it. It's all about getting money out of politics in Denver and to reduce the influence of dark money and corporate money and increase the influence of individual voters, donations, and voices. So, Owen, please.
Thanks. And we've got some handouts out there, but just in case you haven't picked one up, let me pass that around. And they're at the back table if you don't get one. But yeah, I just wanted to say a couple things, and I'd be happy to come back in the fall if you'd like to hear more about this. But there is a ballot initiative that is on the ballot for November this year. It's already made it on the ballot. It's the Democracy for the People initiative, and this is about campaign finance reform for Denver. This is just a Denver issue. And I do want to say that the literature I'm giving you, I didn't anticipate being here today until I heard you weren't going to meet at all during the summer. So this is information that was tailored for some Democratic Party meetings, but we're reaching out to all the parties and across all the spectrums. It's a nonpartisan issue, and we're trying to get big money out of politics, and that is something that resonates with residents of every persuasion and every kind of all along the political spectrum. So, what we're trying to do is 4 big things with this initiative. One is to, in Denver, ban corporations from being able to contribute directly to campaigns. They're not allowed to do that in state races, and they're not allowed to do that in congressional races, but they are allowed to do it in Denver. So this would catch Denver up to the state and the federal standards of no direct contributions from corporations to campaigns. It also provides disclosure of dark money. So that's a huge issue that we face a lot of in Denver and across everywhere in the country. Dark money seeping into political campaigns without knowing who's funding these efforts. So this provides a lot of transparency and brings Denver elections up into the 21st century in that regard. Another big thing it does is it lowers the contribution limits in Denver to be kind of on a scale with the state limits. The state, you can't give more than $400 to your state representative's campaign. I think you can give $1,000 to a city council campaign, $2,000 to at-large council member, and $3,000 for the mayor's campaign. You can't give $3,000 to somebody running for president, but you can give $3,000 to the mayor. So this lowers those limits and brings it in kind of in scale with what we were doing on the state level. And then finally, and I think the biggest thing, is it provides publicly financed elections. And this is something that is at a budget of a maximum of $2 million a year, or $8 million a cycle. That's 0.02% of the Denver annual budget. It's paid for out of the general fund, so there's no new taxes or anything like that. That's something that the general fund should be there to provide for. And that, what it does essentially is give people who opt out of, or opt in to the public financing, one of the things they would do is reject any special interest money. So in taking public finances for their campaign, they would turn down any kind of special interest money from PACs, from small donor committees, anything that's not an individual donating to a campaign. So the whole idea is to get elected officials and candidates back in touch with their constituents and make sure that they're there focusing on the public interest and not the special interests. And what I love about this plan is that we're focusing on small dollar donations. So $50 maximum. That's not the limit, but if you're opting in, the match is going to be on up to $50 of a donation. So with a $50 donation, you get a 9-to-1 match from the public financing component. So that means a $50 donation turns into a $500 donation with a $450 match that goes along with that. And that means that in a room like this, where I counted 30 people at some point, if 20 people here gave $50, and I was a candidate speaking to you, trying to raise money for my campaign, and I could get 20 of you in the room to say, I believe in Owen, I'm going to give you $50, I'm writing you a check right now, that would turn into a $10,000 contribution from this group of 20 people in the neighborhood. And that makes this neighborhood group an incredibly strong constituency, an incredibly strong interest to those elected officials, and reinforces the idea that we need to care about constituents, we need to care about regular voters at least as much, if not more, than we care about the special interest groups. So this is on the ballot in November. I don't know if I should take any questions on it. Probably not for a community forum, but I'm happy to. Yeah. Right.
So, as a taxpayer, I'm having my tax dollars go into help elect candidates, which I agree or disagree, whatever. That's what this proposal would do, and not going towards infrastructure. How does that money, if they were to not win, what happens to that money? Does it go back to the general fund where it came from, or does that person get to keep it and roll over and continue to be a perpetual candidate and then run for school board and then run for other things? So where does that money, so you said that was a 10,000 move, right? That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Successful. I'm just afraid that one of the
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm gonna have to double check on the answer on that. And just to clarify and make sure, it's not, this isn't money that they can keep. You're talking about they can keep it for future campaigns and roll one campaign into another. There are some regulations set up there. There's certainly regulations already existing in terms of what candidates can do with their campaign money. I'm not sure if this addresses leftover campaign money. We would like to see leftover campaign money. One of the options that people can do with that from any campaign is to put it into what's called the Fair Elections Fund that this generates. So that, I think you can give it to a charitable organization now. You can certainly roll it over to another campaign of your own. I don't know for sure if you can give it to some other campaign in Denver. You can on the state level. You can, to a certain extent, some money can be contributed to other campaigns. But we'd like to see eventually, and this is ordinance, it's not charter. So it's ordinance, and it's something that can be continually improved upon by council in the years to come. And that's something we'd love to see, is that they enact some regulations on what can happen with money when a person leaves office and has leftover money. And we'd love to see that going into that Fair Elections Fund that is at this point proposed at $2 million a year. Yeah. So yeah, it's on the ballot in November. We're looking for a yes vote. Love to talk to any groups, and the contact information that's in this pamphlet. You can contact us, and we can come and speak at greater length to any kind of group.
Do you have any more questions for him?
I'll stick around. Yeah.
Stick around.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Danny.
Hello everyone, I'm Danny from Woodbury. I'm just here to formally invite you to our program that we have coming up on Saturdays. It's Women of Denver History program, where we talk about historical figures that are from Denver, that have influenced Denver. We'll have a guest speaker come and talk about and present this presentation. And also I brought several flyers to promote this program and our monthly system-wide calendar as well. I have those in the back as well. Feel free to grab them. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening, guys. I just showed up. My name is Ryan Slater. I work for a company called Team Player Productions. We're a production event company, and we've been hired this year to put on your Highland Street Fair. So I like to stop in and introduce us to the neighborhood. We know it'll affect you guys and what's going on. So this year's June 23rd. It'll be from 11 to 7 p.m. We're finalizing all the details with it. We're working closely with the HMA to make sure we're with the local businesses. It'll be on 32nd between Perry and Irving with Nostalgic. We're working closely with you guys. So we're here. We want to introduce ourselves to the neighborhood. I'll leave some cards on the back table. If you guys have any questions, concerns, we'd love to get feedback from the neighborhood, what's worked, what hasn't, and just kind of introduce ourselves. We do the People's Fair every year, coming up June 1st. We do a Vail, we do Breckenridge, Arvada, we're all over the place. So we've done events in Colorado for 30 years as a company. So hopefully we can bring back what has been a great street fair from what we've heard. So we're excited to be part of it. If you guys have any questions, like I said, my name's Ryan. Team Player Productions is our company. I'll leave some stuff. I just like to introduce myself.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, of course. It'll be fun.
Thanks, Jackie. Okay, yeah, I'm Roger Oram, and as most of you know, I've been a staunch opponent of stop signs in our neighborhood, especially those at 32nd and Perry and at Tennyson, which were installed about 4 years ago. And anyway, I'm looking for support in this, and I can tell you I've been standing at the intersection of, mostly anyway, at Tennyson and 32nd. And I can tell you that there are a lot of people here in this town that agree with me, and I get a lot of thumbs up at those intersections. Anyway, I have in the back here, I've just created a petition to remove these signs. 4 years ago, Susan Shepard claimed in an email that I've received from the city that she said that she had our support here. At that time, I was unable to attend meetings because I had a job where I worked on Tuesday evenings. But I do have time now, having enough gray hair. So anyway, I've been working on this. And so anyway, first of all, let's see. I guess I'll read what I put on here. The all-way stop signs were installed to replace long-standing stoplights in 2014 at the apparent initiative of former Councilwoman Susan Shepard. They are not beneficial to improving traffic flow or safety to motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians. I should say, parenthetically, while I've been standing at the intersection and it hasn't been all that long, a few hours, but I've personally almost seen 3 wrecks there at that intersection at Tennyson. And I've had 2 comments from people who have written to me. I have a email address. It's signsbegone@hotmail.com. I would love to hear from you, and if you can support this initiative, that would be great. Anyway, to address traffic volume and speed complaints, they were proposed and approved in violation of U.S. Transportation Department's Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, namely Section 2B4.5, yield or stop signs should not be used for speed control. Denver Traffic and Mobility Department has provided no evidence that they consulted police, fire, or ambulance services before installing the signs, which can and will affect their response times. I can tell you if they're backed up on these intersections, especially the one on Tennyson, they're not going to be able to get through very quickly. And anyway, I also should say that I hear that we're going to be not having meetings here in the next 3 months, but I understand from Councilman Rafael Espinoza that the city is planning to build bulb outs at these intersections as well. And this will also slow traffic and not allow emergency vehicles to get around cars and that sort of thing. So anyway, I don't think that is a very good idea either, but I hope they can be stopped as well. Anyway, also I can tell you that the all-way stops create more air pollution at these intersections, which is a health hazard to the neighborhood. So anyway, that's pretty much it. I am looking for your support here to overturn this and return the stoplights to those 2 intersections. I wrote here, this was back in 2014. I did write an article in a letter to the editor to the North Denver Tribune. And no response came whatsoever in the paper that I know of. But Susan Shepard did respond to Elisa Cohen, the editor at that time. And it's fairly plain to me in her response that she is the one who caused these stop signs to be installed. One other thing I want to say is that, well, I've been getting a lot of information in this research project of mine, but I did get the documentation that they produced in the Traffic and Mobility Department on what people's reactions were to these stop signs that had been installed. And these were just phoned in responses. And you could call in as many times as you wanted to, and you would probably still be recorded. But for Perry Street, there were 130 for the signs, 120 against. And for Tennyson, there were 108 for and 181 against. But they didn't bother to tell us what those results were. And
Roger, you said you had a petition to sign?
I do, yes. Okay. It's on the back.
Yeah, if you put it back there, and then if you have any more questions for Roger or you want to see any of his information, you'll be back here to have it in the back for questions.
Okay, and I thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Howdy, I'm Dan Whna. Been in the neighborhood all my life. Basically was on Nextdoor last month and saw this article that basically it sort of sounds like our group was sold a bill of goods in regards to St. Dominic's wanting to get us to support a zone change, as they sold the property soon after the zone change for $1.36 million. And now from the sound of it, when our councilman talked earlier, it sounds sort of like we're going to be saddled with 18 units, increased traffic in our area of stability, with very little that we can do, especially since we're going to be on break for the next 3 months from the sound of things. So I brought some copies of it if anyone is interested in it. I just feel that we were sold a bill of goods, and we're now going to be saddled with a bunch of ticky-tacky, not matching our neighborhood townhomes, and it breaks my heart that some things were well supported by this group while others were not, and this is the result.
Okay, you are correct, but I would like to say that if we do have special meetings. If someone wants to call a special meeting to discuss something, we can call the membership together and come and take a vote and hear presentations. I mean, that doesn't mean that we're just shut down. I mean, we're just taking a vacation, but we don't have to. We have had times where we've called special meetings.
And we can vote via email,
Okay.
or anything like that.
Well, I'm probably not the one to lead something since I failed in helping with things in the past. I did have one question in terms of, did St. Dominic's sign a good neighbor agreement when we did this zone change? And if so, is there any consequences for having turned around and gave it to us?
There was no good neighborhood agreement because that's for a restaurant, bar,
Bars.
so that's what those are treated for.
Okay.
Do you have some of these back there?
I did. I put a whole bunch
Okay,
back there at the beginning.
Yes, we do have.
Yeah, because I've been researching
Okay.
since last month, so.
Yeah, so if you want to email me, then I can find the actual meeting that referenced all of that.
This is Jill Samuels. Right?
Well, and I know that there was stuff with Sounds Like Citizen Group also. They convinced this group, they convinced that group, and then they went around and sold it. So, thanks.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Okay. Hey, Paul.
Hi, Jackie. My name's Paul Cloyd. I'm with the Design and Preservation Committee. I just wanted to acknowledge
And
that...
I skipped you, didn't I? I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. It's just one of our committee members is moving back east to be with her family, Marilyn Quinn, with her husband, Tom. And Marilyn has been such a staunch supporter of this community. I just had to acknowledge the work that she's done. She was instrumental in the Ghost District and Beth Eden, Packard Hill. Currently, she's helping us get the Fairview Lofts. We expect that nomination to go forward sometime this summer. So she's just done a lot of work with a lot of enthusiasm. She's helped me a lot as being on this committee, and I just want to, she's not here tonight, obviously, but I just want to acknowledge her efforts and what a great help she's been. We owe a lot to her, so that's all I had.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Amy, come on up.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Amy Beatty, and I'm running for the Colorado House of Representatives to represent House District 4. And with the support of many of your neighbors, I actually won the Denver County Assembly, and my name will be on the top of the ballot. So I'm really excited. And I was thrilled to come here tonight. My son used to go to daycare right across the alley at Explore and Discover. So I used to come to this building every day for several years when my son was tiny. I dropped him off for the first time after my 10-week time off from work, and I left him in the hands of the very capable people at Explore and Discover and sat down on the steps and cried because I was really going to miss him. And that was my sort of moving out of the baby cocoon and back into my workaday life. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my career path and then what brought me to run. I went to law school out here in Colorado. I've lived in this community for the last 18 years. When I went to law school, when I graduated from law school, I had 2 one-year jobs lined up. The very first job was working as a community organizer and special projects attorney, addressing the issues of a brand new gas development, a natural gas development that was tearing Wyoming ranches to pieces. So I was working in the northeastern corner of the state of Wyoming in Red Rural Ranching Company, organizing ranchers to come together to fight this gas development. And I was a young female attorney from Denver. So it was a very interesting job, but it was a job that I absolutely loved, and I was good at it, and I'm still friends with some people in the community there. We don't talk politics, but we do get to talk about kids and the families and their lives. But the reason I was successful at that job is because I show up places and I listen. You can't walk into a community that you don't know and tell people how things are going to be. I then left that job, which was designed to be a single-year job, and I came back to Colorado to clerk for a Colorado Supreme Court justice. I clerked for Justice Gregory J. Hobbs. And a Supreme Court clerk helps the justice research and write the opinions that are assigned to their chambers, and also makes recommendations to the court about the cases that they'll hear. So the court is a court of last resort in the state of Colorado, and it has to use its time really carefully. So it decides what kind of caseload that it will take. So we looked at everything from criminal justice to land use. And as I was in that job, I had actually gone to law school because I wanted to be the Lorax and speak for the trees. Justice Hobbs said, I understand that you're trying to figure out what you want to do with the rest of your legal career, and you can go do that environmental thing you want to go and do. But first, you need to learn how to be a really good lawyer. The train's going to leave the station. It's going to be hard for you to get back on that train. If you decide later that you want to learn really good legal skills, it's going to be really hard for you to do that. So it was one of those moments where you know the advice isn't exactly what you wanted to hear, but you do it anyway because you know it's right. So I was in private practice for about 5 years. I had the opportunity to, when I was in private practice, I was working on water litigation, making sure that mostly public entities like cities and municipal entities had safe and reliable water supplies for their constituents. While I was in that job, I had the opportunity to work for free. I did some pro bono work for an organization called the Colorado Water Trust. one of the partners in my law firm was starting this organization, and I worked on the organization's very first transaction. And then I actually had the opportunity to leave private practice and run that organization. And I started in November of 2007, and everyone I think knows what happened after the fall of 2007, right? The economy tanked. I took this job leading a failing nonprofit organization, never having raised $1 before in my life, right when the economy tanked. And 10 years later, we'd grown my board and I had grown the organization from a single paid staff person to a team of 9, from an $80,000 a year budget to over $1 million, and we increased our mission delivery all over the state of Colorado, putting rivers in the heart of the conversation about what we do about water in the state of Colorado. And that was an incredible honor and privilege, and I spent a ton of time traveling all over the state. I understand issues from Maybell to Mancos, from Sterling to Lamar to Trinidad, and all points in between. I can find La Plata County and Castillo County on a map without the county boundaries. So I really get the entire state of Colorado, but I kept coming home. And after having been in our rental for 5 years, our landlords sent us a note telling us that they were going to raise our rent $1,000 a month. That was right around the same time the Save-A-Lot at 38th and Clay was closing. It was one of the last low-cost grocery stores with an emphasis on Latino foods, and Northwest Denver is already a food desert. And so I realized, and you guys were actually talking about this during your meeting tonight, how much our community is changing. And I wanted to take all that energy that I had spent all over the state of Colorado and take it and focus on this community and make sure that this community has the strongest leadership, the most prepared leadership to walk in the door of the Capitol to take on the dumpster fire in Washington, D.C. We are the last line of defense against what's happening in Washington, D.C., and in particular, I think you guys have seen the environmental protections come completely unraveled. So I'm here to serve this community, to serve Colorado's heart and soul assets, our beautiful views, our mountains and our rivers, and also to serve I have a really robust platform that has been designed by knocking doors. My campaign has knocked thousands of doors already. I'm going to focus on income inequality. I'm focusing on education funding. We have one of the best economies in the country, and we're 48th in the country in funding education. And I'm not just talking, I'm walking my talk. I have a petition here to put more money into our public education system. I would love to stay afterwards and have you guys sign it. And then I'm also going to walk in the door of the Capitol with a robust environmental platform. It would be an absolute honor to have your support. I am not accepting corporate PAC money. I am a completely grassroots campaign. My fundraising is going well because people statewide have seen my leadership and believe in me. I hope you all will too. Thank you very much for your time. I know you guys are running a little late.
Thank you. Okay, hi Serena.
Hi. Hi everyone. Does this go down? Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. My name is Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez, and I am also running for state representative for House District 4, where we stand tonight. And, you know, I am a 6th-generation Coloradan, a 3rd-generation Denverite, and I'm also very proud to say that I am a 3rd-generation North High School Viking. So I don't know if there's any other Vikings in the room, but yeah. So I grew up in actually North Denver and not far from here, just right up off of 32nd and Vrain. So not far from the stop sign, sir, that you were referencing. And, you know, growing up in this neighborhood, this is the community where, you know, I used to ride my bikes with my little brothers down to the little corner store on 29th and Tennyson. It's the same community where I had my first job when I was 14 years old as a busser at a little restaurant called Sabor Latino off of 32nd and Lowell. It's also the same community where I helped my parents run and operate small businesses that they owned in this district. This is the community where I also learned to stand up for myself and for others. And now it is where my husband and I, who both were raised in North Denver, are raising our 3 beautiful children. So I'm a mother, I'm a wife and partner to my husband of 13 years, But I'm also run a program called the Denver Collaborative Partnership, and I'm the director of that program. And that program works with children, youth, and families that are involved in multiple systems or at risk of multi-system involvement. And I have, throughout my career for the past 15 years, have worked in child welfare and juvenile justice, and working with those same families, the same communities that are some of our most vulnerable. And I'm proud to say a little accomplishment that we just had yesterday was that the governor actually just signed a bill, House Bill 1323, which was through the governor's office in order for us to implement programming to prevent families from becoming further system involved. So doing more prevention. So we're talking about youth that are running away from home and being able to provide services to those families without them having to knock on human services doors or child welfare doors. And so that I see was a huge accomplishment for us. And what that took was the collaboration with many different systems and city agencies in Denver. And it was working towards a common goal. And those are the qualities that I would bring as a state representative, is that collaboration, listening and working with people. I mentioned my kids earlier, and I just want to point out that my husband and I are raising them on the values of education, advocacy, and compassion. Education, I am passionate about education. My children are enrolled in Denver Public Schools. I'm a DPS alum myself, and I want to make sure that all of Colorado's children have access to a quality education. And that starts with funding. That starts with looking at the things that are in place. How do we dismantle Tabor? How do we ensure that we have the revenue in place to adequately fund our schools? When it comes to advocacy, I have been doing that for years. I was born into the world of advocacy with my family. And that's what I continue to do now, is I advocate for our families to have a voice when it comes to them having their needs met. These are families who have to make decisions about whether or not they can go to the doctor or put food on the table. Families that have to think about every night if they can find a safe place to sleep at night. And we wonder why their children aren't going to school. It is because they're not able to have their basic needs met. And those same families, just as all of us in this room, we deserve to have, a sustainable and clean environment. And so we think about how some of our families are impacted disproportionately, and that goes based on income level and families of color that are impacted disproportionately when it comes to quality of air, water, and access to affordable and accessible transportation. Last, I want to talk about compassion, and that is what truly drives me, or I wouldn't have built an entire career and life work on social work. Like I mentioned earlier, working with varying different systems. I'm talking public defenders, district attorneys, probation officers, social workers, on top of the court systems, judges and magistrates, and working towards that common goal so we can make sure that our families that are the most vulnerable are receiving the services that they need. As your next state representative, that will continue to be my goal, is to listen and work with the residents of House District 4 and hope that we can together, we can build stronger families, stronger communities, and together a Colorado that works for all of us. Ballots will be dropping soon, and as you all know, it is a mail-in ballot situation, right? And the actual election is June 26th, and we are in a Democratic primary. So you met Amy earlier, one of my opponents, and yeah, I really am passionate about this community, and I want to give back to some place that has given me so much. And that's really what is driving me. And so I really thank you all for giving me the opportunity tonight. As was mentioned earlier, I know you've been here for a while. I do have some literature back on the table. I also have a sign-in sheet, so if anyone is interested in learning more about our campaign, we are running grassroots. Most of my donations have come from in the community in Colorado and have been endorsed by organizations such as the AFL-CIO, Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition Action Fund, as well as Blue Flower, Colorado Blue Flower Foundation. So thank you very much, and please feel free to sign up. Thank you.
Okay, AJ has a short announcement.
You bet I do. I've got you covered, Jackie. I'm AJ. I'm the pastor of Renewal Church at 32nd and Irving. We're working through a remodel and hoping to launch on September 9th, open our doors for worship. But this summer, I wanted to invite you guys to a couple food truck rallies we're having. It's third Tuesdays, May through August this summer, 5:30 to 8 o'clock. And we're right on the corner of 32nd and Irving. We don't get any money from it. It's just a fun way to get the community together. And so we'd love to see you out there. If you need help remembering, we brought some little fires on the back table there. And hope to see you there for the first one on May 15th. Catch you later.
Thank you. Okay, and I just was, we are still looking for a social director person to plan summer socials, and I think Mayfie's busy. But, you know, we're still looking for someone who'd be interested in helping organize that. And, okay, so we will break for the next 3 months. We'll try to have summer socials, and we'll let you all know where they are, and then we can go eat and drink and have a good time and discuss the community. And we'll be back in September. But if there are any special needs that anyone has, or meetings that you'd like to call, we can also arrange that if you just let us know. Okay? Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you.